This is my retell in the source language, which is English. I will be using my content map to stimulate my memory. Julie H. starts out, I think something that's really changed over the time in the education system is not a lot of parents are home with their kids anymore. And I know it seems weird coming from the community college person to talk about the young people, but I have 4 grandchildren and I think about kids a lot. My grandchildren, their parents make time to be with them. They still work, but they make sure that they're involved in their children's lives and they're very active. But our school district, Salem, has a lot of poverty, and we have to think about what do we do when kids don't have that support system at home, when they don't come home to people to help them with their homework. And how can we prepare students and make sure they're successful despite that? Paul Evans talks. That's a great point. And that leads us into what we want to talk about, which is how the landscape of education has changed over the past few years. And I think one way is that, and it's a very positive thing, that there's a lot of community involvement with the education system. There we have Shemeketa, Western Oregon University, and we have parents and teachers and past teachers here today to discuss, and I think that is definitely a positive on how education has changed. So does anybody else want to take the floor about how education has changed over the past few years? Gloria H. starts to speak. I'd be willing to speak on that. Okay. So one thing that we touched on it a little bit before, but that has definitely changed is the class size nowadays. When I was a teacher, and I retired about 6 years ago, our class sizes were about 20 to 28 kids, and now they're on the upwards of 38 to 42 or 48 kids in a classroom, and that's just an abomination. And I think the worst part about it is that new teachers are entering into the education system and thinking that this is normal and taking on that challenge of having an upwards of 40 students. And how are they expected to have any relationship with the students when they have 40 people in like a math or a science class? It's just not possible. And also something that I think we should touch on is technology use. I mean, that has definitely influenced the landscape of the education. We are in the information age. Students have the ability to use the internet, and I think that it's a good thing, but also can be a not so good thing, and they have all this information coming at them, and they have to decipher what is true and what is not. So, yeah. Mike Powers speaks. I'd like to touch on that as well. Okay. So, something that we've noticed, even with our own son, is that there is definitely a lack of community nowadays because there's social media where kids don't have to interact one-on-one. Now they rely on their phones, and I think we've seen definitely a spike in anxiety and depression, and I think that is related to the social media use nowadays. Jennifer K. speaks. I would like to go back to that technology. I mean, that is so true. It is a great resource, but you're right. We need to start learning how to teach the kids how to decipher what is credible and what is not. I think that there is definitely another thing that's changed in our educational landscape is diversity. There is a lot more diversity in the classroom, different types of people, and in relation to that technology, how can we teach kids to be emotionally intelligent, how to interact with other kids? Julie H. Yeah, And I think another thing as an educator is the amount of school days and how many hours the kids spend in the classroom. I mean, because obviously we want them to spend a lot of time in the classroom, but it's just not there. And lack of respect. Thank you for touching on that. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand how the kids think it's okay, how it is okay that the students treat the teachers who spend a majority of the time with these kids with such disrespect, and it's just awful. There's also a lot more distractions nowadays with the technology. There was sure a lot of distractions before, but now even more. And we got to think about, how do we help these kids make a transition from high school to college, because not everybody's on the same page when it comes to expectations. Their senior year, they're not on the same page, so when they go to college, they think, oh, I don't have to follow the syllabus, I don't have to turn in this assignment because you'll give me extra credit, right? And now we see these kids dropping out of college or not going to college or not making it very long because they're not ready. Jennifer K. speaks. Yeah, we need to teach these kids how to bridge that gap between college and career ready, because it's true, not a lot of high schools are preparing these students for college or in their career. And Mike Power speaks. Definitely been a lot of changes in the education system. Julie H. speaks up. Another thing is I found kids don't really want to listen to lectures, but they're not really willing to work in teams either, which is interesting. And I think it's because they relied on that technology so much that they don't really know how to interact with each other.